Hello, hello. Okay, sounds good. If I could send a message to my 20-year-old self, it would be to dream bigger. I think that we, a lot of times, think that we can't do things, and many of the limitations that we have are things that we put on ourselves. And I think that if I had known then a lot of the things that I know now, I think I would have been able to do a lot more a lot sooner. So many times we think that we have to wait until everything's perfect and all the dominoes are in a row in order to have a dream that's big. And that's just not the case. And so, yes, if I could send a message to my 20-year-old self, it would be to dream bigger, dream without a ceiling, and to just go out and do it. Like, stop overthinking. Don't overthink it. Just go out and do it. You know, 20-year-old Tiffany. So I actually, a lot of people don't know this, but I actually got my real estate license when I was 19. So I had did that right after high school. And I got kind of scared and ended up getting a job. And then that's how I started working in banking. And they, had told me that I couldn't have my license. So I got rid of it. So now, flash forward to 12 years later, here I am now doing what I wish that I did when I was 19 and 20. That was what I originally had wanted to do and had aspired to do. But fear kind of got in the way of that. So I think 20-year-old Tiffany was still ambitious, but I think I was just, scared, like we all are. And thankfully, that fear has gotten less with age. Usually, sometimes it gets more, but I feel like my fear's gotten a little bit less with age. And as you get older, you stop caring about like what people think. You fail a lot, and so failure's not as scary anymore. And so, yeah. Yeah. Um, I feel like that's just a Thursday being an entrepreneur. That's you know, literally I can describe a time last week and the week before that I kind of got up and I'm scared and don't know if I'm making the right decisions and want to take the easy route and want to take the safe route. But it's on those days where I decide to like just give it another day, give it another day, give it another try, and that usually always turns out good. But I think being an entrepreneur, you constantly think about giving up. I don't think that thought doesn't go through your mind, but the bigger thought that goes through your mind is what that means, and what you're giving up, and you you want what you're working towards so much more, and so that allows you to kind of push through those limiting beliefs and push through that fear and keep going. Yeah, I think one of the things that's really been resonating with me recently is narrow and deep, not far and wide. So, especially in this day and age and the internet, right? You're constantly seeing it's like shiny object syndrome. You're constantly seeing there's these new things that you can do or try, or, how you should run your business or how you shouldn't run your business. And it can get really overwhelming. And I think even for people that have been an entrepreneur for a long time, it gets overwhelming. So I think just deciding what you want to do and focus on that. Go as deep as you can in that thing. Be the best at that particular thing and put the blinders on. So, in the beginning of being an entrepreneur, you have to have those blinders to stay focused, stay committed to what you are doing. And then, once you've built your business and your business is self-sufficient and it can run without you, then you can start to look up and look around and see what other opportunities are there. But first, you have to look at mastering your craft first. So be the best at what you're trying to do, give it your all, and don't get caught up in all of the hype and all of the different things that everybody is trying. Just do your thing. This one I wasn't sure on. I'm going to be honest. I think definitely one of them would be my grandma. My grandma she was an amazing person that was taken away from me too quickly. And I didn't get to spend as much time as I wish that I did. So my grandma, I think, passed away when I was like 10, 11. But she was one of the most amazing people that I knew, and she just had this free spirit about her. I always tell people, I'm like, my grandma was like a hippie. She just loved life and she loved people, and she gave you the feeling that you could do anything, like anything that you wanted. I remember even being young, like I remember talking with my grandma, and afterwards I always felt like I could achieve anything, I could do anything, I could get anything I wanted. And I think I need a little bit of that sometimes right now. So that would be an amazing feeling to have. Um, Other than that, I really don't know who else I would have dinner with or want to. I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, I do look up to different people, but my mentor, like, we do have dinner, right? We talk and stuff, but I look up to different people. But I think a part of this is like, I don't aspire to be any particular person or individual. I aspire to be the best version of me for myself, for my family, because that is what's really important at the end of the day. So the reason why I'm doing all of this is because I want to be an inspiration to the people around me and in my circle. So yeah, so there's not like a specific like celebrity or somebody that I aspire to be. If I could change anything about the real estate industry, I think it would be the education piece. So I think that there is still so many people that don't know how to buy a house, that don't know what it takes to buy a house, and that feel like that's something that's unachievable for them. And if I could change anything, it would be that that's something that we learn about, in high school or in the public education. Like that should be, and especially also coming from banking, it's like there's so many basic financial tools that people just don't learn. And I don't know why that's not in our education system, but it should be, because the fact that if you grew up with, a parent that's very affluent and teaches you about finances and teaches you about credit and teaches you about ownership, right? And I didn't, not saying that I didn't, but um, you have such an advantage that makes such a difference in every aspect of your life. And I feel like that's something that everyone should have access to. I don't feel like that's something that you should be gatekeeping, or that you should have to go out and like proactively try to learn. I feel like that should be a part of what we learn growing up. I don't know why it's not. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, I mean, I won't go completely conspiracy theorist, but I mean, I think there's a reason for some of the stuff why we don't learn it in school. But um, yeah, I mean, and even look at where we are now and the things that are being taken away from our education and that can't be taught in school about different histories and stuff. So, yeah. Anyways, but I definitely think that that should be a pillar of what we learn growing up. And I think that a lot more people would have home ownership if that was something that was taught. I don't think everyone could be wealthy. And I think I've talked about this with friends. Like sometimes you get around people and you're like, well, you know, you want them to have the same beliefs as you do and you want them to want the same things as you do. But at the end of the day, the world couldn't function if everybody had the same sort of mindset. And so it takes different types of people to make the world go round. But I do think that anybody, if they decided to and took the steps, and could definitely be wealthy. Yes. I think so. Yes. Yes. You know, I'll tell you. So this is so when I was growing up, I used to look at, you know, and not that there's anything wrong with it, but I used to look at people working, like being grown and working these jobs that I felt like didn't live up to like their full potential, right? And I used to get scared, to be honest. I used to get scared because I used to think like, what happened in this person's life that made them want to do that, and is that going to happen to me? Is this going to happen to me that I'm going to also end up here? Like, where did it happen? And then obviously, as you get older, you realize that people just have different sorts of personalities and people strive for different things and people are okay with different things. And so, but it used to actually be like a real fear when I was growing up of not wanting to end up, you know, and thinking that something happened that ends you up that way. And I don't think that's always the case. I think people just are different and their personalities are different. Mm, there is, but I don't think it will disappear. And it's the metaverse, the, oh my gosh. Yes, yes. Not a fan. Not a fan. I'm saying that, but we do have a virtual reality headset at my house. And I think that's what makes me so like passionate about not wanting it. Because I watch like, you know, my niece and nephews and my daughter and like they get in and it's like they literally have no idea what's going on around them and they think that that's real, and I think that we're going more towards that and it scares me. It scares the crap out of me. um Especially having, you know, a lot of young children that I care about around me and my daughter. It's like, what is this going to be like when they get older? You know, like this is, I feel like just the beginning of it, and I don't want to see where it's going to end up. I don't really want to see that at all. It is. Oh my gosh. Are we? Yes. Yes. Right? There's a movie like that. I forgot what movie. I just watched it not long ago. And they were, and like everybody was all like big and just in the metaverse and like had no idea what reality was. because they thought that that was reality. It's creepy. Yes, exactly. Exactly. I Yeah, I'm sad that we made that mistake at our house, and I know I need to. I need to. It's really, yeah, it's bad. So that scares me. Virtual reality scares the crap out of me. Um, I would say one of the most eye-opening experiences or places that I traveled to, well, and probably just because it's recent, but when I just went to the Bahamas, we did an excursion that drove us on a speedboat to a private island, and we're sitting on the island and having lunch, and it's my friends and my our kids and people that we love and care about, and we're just sitting on this island enjoying life, like watching the water, watching the kids play in the water, sipping on a rum punch. And it was, I want to have more of that. I want to have more of that. So I think it was just realizing how much that I enjoyed, like that piece of just, being isolated with the people that I love, and how it made me come back and want to like grind harder to have so many more of those experiences in my life. And to be able to really like sit back and enjoy those moments, because that was definitely, I think, a core memory for myself and for my child to be able to create that. And not that we haven't gone on vacations, but that was just it felt like pure bliss, and it was amazing. And so I want to create as many more of those experiences that I can. Thanks. No problem. Absolutely, hands down. Um, yeah, I mean, I've said that on here, right? Like I quit my job because I don't want to ask people to spend time with my family. I don't want to ask people to go to my daughter's, cheer leading and watch her, or her gymnastics meet. Like, I don't want to ever have to ask permission or to feel like I am at the mercy of somebody else. To what extent that my family is successful, or to what extent that I'm able to provide a life for her and for them. So that, yeah. I think it just happens naturally, right? Like my dad never encouraged me to get into real estate, but seeing what it was able to provide um, is definitely something that drove me. So growing up, I was always with my dad all the time. He picked us up from school. We would always be riding around with him, going to projects, going to meetings. And back then, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to ride around with dad. But now I'm like, gosh, I got to spend so much time with my dad. I got to always be with him, and so I definitely value that, and it's a part of what made me want to do it myself. And I think my daughter kind of sees that as well, and she already has a little entrepreneurial spirit for sure. So I don't think it would take much convincing. Yeah. Oh, see, okay, this is what's happening is that I don't know a lot of actors or celebrities. That's why I put both those questions. I was struggling. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know anything about movies. No, yeah. Growing up, we didn't watch too much TV. And even now, we still kind of don't. So I don't know a ton of actresses or actors at all. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was kind of thinking too, we could maybe go over the deal that I just did because I just finished a project a couple of weeks ago, and so I can kind of run through that and what what that was like. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, the most recent project that I just did. So I'll kind of walk through what that looked like. So I bought this property. It's a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom. I bought it for 70,000. It was listed on the MLS, and I bought it at asking price. That was a pretty reasonable price for it. I ended up my original budget for the project was 59,000 to get it rehab. I ended up being in it just under 40,000 to get that rehab finished. And the cool thing is we finished it very quickly. So we were done with that house, I believe, in like 6 7 weeks, so less than 60 days into the project, and we got it finished. So now the property is out for rent. It's going to be renting for 1450, so that's what we have it rented for. And then now that it's finished, the property is worth just under 190,000. So 70,000 for the purchase. I put about 40,000 into the rehab, so I'm in it about 115 after all of the fees, and then now have created, over $60,000 worth of equity in the house, and then the tenant will be paying off my mortgage. So really great deal, went super smooth, and hoping that the next one will go just as well. Yes. It's been mostly my own projects, but we have been working on. I've been working with a client, but he's my dad. But on vacant land, so we're building a house right now, and that's almost finished as well. And so we've just been looking for more vacant land to get the next project started. So yeah. It is a task. Yeah. So building a house is definitely, it has some steps. So this one that it's being done right now started in October of 2022. Now it's just about to be finished, and we're entering into October 2023. So takes about a year, at least where I'm at, to get from having the dirt to get to everything being approved by the city for us to be able to build, the architects, the engineers to tell us what we can build, and then go from there to start building and get the structure and then get the house all the way done. So there's definitely some steps to go from the dirt to a building. And I'm still learning them. So my dad's actually helping me a lot with getting to know and getting familiar with all of the different steps, which is awesome. And I'm excited about this next journey. Yes. Yep. Not yet. Yeah, no, I'm actively looking and searching for projects right now. So I'm trying to buy another two houses before the end of the year. I'm hoping one can be a duplex and then maybe another single family out in Pittsburgh where my investments are. And then we have a property right now under contract that's vacant land that we're going to be closing on, I think, next month to start another new construction. So very excited. Okay. You are right, but I'm trying to do it. I've just been leaning on investing because that's familiar and it's what I know, but I'm trying to still actively find clients. But I'm basically like targeting towards clients that are investors or want to invest, is what it is. Yes. Yeah, so I'm thinking, yeah, I'm thinking like just talking, like it just talking through projects, talking through like what to know when you're looking for an investment property, things to look out for in a house, like what type of different investment strategies. So just kind of education around investing. Yeah, or yeah, so we could be like yep, what do I look for in an investment property or that would make it a good deal? Um, I mean, my other one kind of went the same as this one. They're all very similar. Um, so I don't know that it would. Besides my very first one that I did, that was terrible. Yeah, yeah. So the last one that I did was a flip, and then my first one that I lost a bunch of money on was also a flip. So, and you can ask about that, like what went wrong or what you know what I learned from it. I don't know. Yeah. From the first house that I flipped, I learned everything not to do, is what it taught me. So, like some key things that I would say my takeaways were was I over rehabbed. Now going forward, I use a lot of whatever is existing in the house. I try to save as much as I can and see if I can, refurbish it or paint it or make it feel new. Whereas with my first flip, it was like, no, take everything out. Everything needs to be brand new from the store, high end. And so I completely gutted a house that didn't need to be gutted. And what that teaches you is when you open walls and you do things, you find things. Anytime you open a wall, typically you find something. So now going forward, I avoid opening walls at all costs, because once you see something, you can't unsee it, and then you need to fix it, and that costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. So definitely don't over rehab. I also learned how to work with contractors. So in that first deal, I did. I just wasn't very smart and tried to save money. That's not where you save money. In real estate, anytime you try to save money, believe it, you will end up costing yourself more than what you were even trying to save from. So if your original bid for something was 15,000 and you found somebody that's going to do it for 7, guess what? That person that says they're going to do it for 7 probably either won't get it done or it'll be bad quality, and you'll end up paying that 7 plus the 15 to have the right person come in and do it the right way. So now instead of paying 15, you're paying 22. It never fails. It never fails. Anytime that I or anybody that I know has tried to save money in a project, it ends up costing them more money. So if the price sounds too good to be true, it's because it probably is. So in that project, I had paid a contractor up front, won all of his money, and he completely destroyed my walls. He was an electrician. He destroyed all of my drywall, and then didn't finish. So not only did I have to pay for the electrical again, I then had to re sheetrock my whole house. Um, and that just set things into motion that were not great. That really set things back. And also being a new investor, it was discouraging, right? And so yeah, it set some dominoes in a row that led to me losing $50,000 on that project, and yeah, it's not great. But I learned. But I learned. I did. Yes. I would say you don't need to buy the cheapest house. So, one of the things that is really, really important to me right now in my investment strategy, and all the realtors that I work with, I'm like, find me a grandma's house. That's what I call it. I need a grandma's house. I don't want a house that is completely torn apart and, looks like I don't even know how somebody was living in there, because it's just too much for a new investor. It's a lot because there's just so many things you don't know. So what I look for and what I tell anybody around me that's new to investing to look for is to look for grandma's house, right? Where grandma took good care of it. It's just old and things just need to be updated, but it doesn't need to be completely torn apart or gutted. Because when you do that, you, like I said, you just run into so many issues that you don't know how to handle because you're new. But with grandma's house, it's just, you're changing out the flooring. You're maybe updating the electrical, but you're changing out the flooring, you're putting paint, you're taking out the cabinets that were there, replacing them with cabinets right there in that same spot. So I really tell anybody around me that's investing is just, take what's already there and then just make it newer. That is my investment strategy. That's what I do. Anything where you have to gut the house, stay away from when you're a brand new investor. And so sometimes though that means paying a little bit more, right? So where I'm at, you can buy properties for 25, 30,000 where I invest at, but those properties are going to require so much more work. So instead of putting 40,000, you're putting, 60, 70, 80,000 into it. And you're just having to do a lot more to get kind of the same return. So instead of paying that, I'm paying a little bit higher, but not having to put as much work and being able to turn it around a lot faster. So it actually ends up saving money, even though it seems like I'm spending more. Correct. Correct, yes. And by being able to finish it quickly. Because something that a lot of people don't think of is that each month that you own an investment property, it costs you money. You have to pay taxes, you have to pay utilities, you have to pay a mortgage, right? If you got a hard money loan. And those loans tend to be expensive and they're interest only. So every month you're throwing money away that's not going towards paying anything off. And so if you take a project that should take you 2 months and now it takes you 6 months, those expenses really start to add up and eat at your profit. Yeah. I would say to look out for the neighborhood, right? So sometimes you can find it's a great deal, but is that a neighborhood that people want to live in? Is it a neighborhood that people want to rent in? And if it's not, then you're putting money into something where you're not going to be able to get the return that you're expecting. And so sometimes, especially if you're buying out of state, you really have to be you have to do your due diligence to figure out what that specific, I won't even say area is, but that specific street, that specific neighborhood. You have to really get granular with looking at that area and figuring out, is this an area that people are buying in? Because sometimes you might be down the street from the area people are buying in, but where you're at is where nobody's buying. Or nobody wants to live, or everybody knows that that's the block that people don't go down. And so being really intentional about analyzing the neighborhoods and figuring out where you're buying. So I use a lot of Google walking. When I'm purchasing an investment property, I walk the blocks, I walk the neighborhoods, and try to get a feel and an understanding for what that neighborhood looks like. Yes, I was gonna. That actually reminded me of a funny story. I was at a yeah, I was at an event with different realtors, and I grew up in Tacoma, right, born and raised, so I'm very familiar with the area. And I was saying you can always tell when somebody's not from Tacoma and they invest in Tacoma because they buy the house where everybody knows not to buy. Right. So one of the houses that I seen for sale was really pretty house, beautiful house, but it was right next to the store that was very run down that nobody goes to because there's a lot of gang activity and shootings and crimes that go on. And the house was literally right next door to it. So that house sat on the market, even though it looked gorgeous. There was nothing that investor could do to make that house desirable because nobody wanted to live in that area. So that house sat on the market for months and months and months. And I know that they had to lower the price significantly to get it sold. So those are the things where, you know, you don't know if you don't live there, and you don't know if you don't do the research. And you could tell that that investor did not research that because it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible area. I I would assume so, but sometimes, and I made this mistake with my previous, not this last one, but the project before. I bought that house without ever being to that neighborhood. And I didn't Google walk the street. And this is why I say to do it. And then when I got there, I'm like, oh, this neighborhood is very active. There's a lot going on. And so initially, my plan was to keep that house, but I ended up having to sell it. So thankfully, I had a lot of room in my numbers, and it still turned out good, and I still made a profit from it. Obviously not as large as I would have anticipated, but that's the difference. Is you if you look at the neighborhood and you think everyone's selling for this, high price, but you're in the portion that nobody's buying in, then you're not going to get that number. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things is letting the comps, so comps are the comparable properties in the area, letting the comps tell you how much to rehab. So if you are looking at the houses in the area that are comparable, and this is what the price that you're shooting for, and all of them have the basement refinished and yours doesn't, right? Then you probably need to refinish the basement or finish that. But if you look and none of them do, then don't waste your money finishing the basement, right? So that by looking at the comparables in the area, that should really tell you the amount of work and the amount of money that you're putting into the project. And so you want to do that before you buy it, so that way you know what your rehab budget is going to be. And then, right, then you have the best shot and opportunity to get the number that the other houses in the neighborhood are going for. I think that when you go into the project, you should always have wiggle room. So you should never base your numbers off trying to get top dollar for a house, just because also things change. So, for instance, when I bought my other project, I bought in March or February of 2022. And that was right before the interest rates changed significantly. So the market changed significantly by the time I went to sell that house. And so if I was basing it off of this top dollar and all of my numbers were based off of that, and I didn't have any room in there, that could have turned out really bad. I won't say really bad, because here's the thing: real estate, it just takes time. If a deal goes bad, sometimes you just need time. And I could have kept the house and tried to wait for a different market cycle to sell it. But you never know what things are going to do, and things can change. And so you always want to be conservative with your numbers, and you want to always have some room for things that are unexpected, for market changes, for things that are unknown. So it's just, you just have to be conservative. Never base your numbers off of the best case scenario, because sometimes the best case scenario is not realistic. No, that's fine. You can go. You mean like a part of Tacoma, or like a? Yeah, so my family, I'm like, we call it the Spot, but it's actually not called the Spot. It's called Pacific Southern, and it's a breakfast place down the street from my house that me and my family go to all the time, literally all the time. They know us by name. And but it is really special to us, and they always make us feel, at home, and like we're a part of their family. And it's something where now my family, has so many memories there, and it's literally just, it's the Spot. So we'll be talking to each other, and we're like, okay, let's just meet at the Spot. And it's yeah, it's something that's very near and dear to our heart. And that they have amazing breakfast food. They got chicken and waffles and biscuits and gravy and all of the like southern breakfast food that you could want. Um, and yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. But I love all of the ladies in there. They're amazing. Sundays for us, they're a little bit different now. Growing up, Sundays always looked the same. It was church with my family. And when I say my family, I mean my whole family: grandma, uncles, cousins, everybody. And then after that, it was grandma's house, and we'd go and have dinner and hang out together. And so, actually, here's a fun fact: I have never worked a Sunday ever in my life. And growing up, that was something that was really important to me and to my parents, because I was raised in church always. And so God's a big part of my life and who I am. So now, since the pandemic, it started to look a little bit different, but it's still, we wake up, we go to church. Usually, then after, we go to the Spot and have breakfast, and then we'll come home and just hang out as a family and spend time together. Sundays have always been something that's so sacred for us and for my family, and it's always been something where it doesn't matter how the week was or like what you're going through on Sundays. you would always get that refresh and that recharge of your battery that would give you what you need to go on and take on the rest of the week. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Hands down. My faith is a huge part of who I am. Um, and it's been a huge part of my journey. You know, the journey hasn't always been easy, but I've always had faith and I've never fallen, you know. So I know for a fact there's times where there was nothing else but God and faith that got me through. So yeah, it's a huge part of who I am and how I live my life and how I, continue to want my journey to go. All right. Cool.